Good evening. Welcome to the Sublime Arts series here at Second Reformed Church. We are so glad that you are here to enjoy the music being offered today. My name is Aaron Goodike, and I serve as co-director of music at Second Reformed along with my wife, Kristen. And we wanted to share a few pieces of information with you. Number one being that the restrooms can be found around the corner from the gathering place. Please silence your cell phones. Please make sure they are turned off. You might be asked to play the French horn afterwards. Otherwise, you are invited to a reception in the gathering place following the program hosted by our Second Church Recital Series Committee. And if you feel so inclined, there are QR codes in your program and offering plates in the narthex behind the sanctuary as ways to support the Second Recital Series and our performers. You can find an updated calendar of our series we have hosted earlier in the year. You are also welcome to take a postcard on one of the tables out there. Our performers today are members of the West Michigan Horn Choir, and we were talking before this is their resurrection after COVID, and the first time that they are performing together in several years. So without further ado.
Thank you very much. My name is Greg. I am here with the West Michigan Horn Choir, and I am so thankful that they asked me to join them this year because this is just loads of fun for all of us. We are a group of horn enthusiasts who just love to play the horn, and then we want to share that love with everybody else. So we're hoping that this is one big love fest at the concert tonight. It is a pleasure to play in this space. Wow, what a great space this is. I just love it. It's so big and resonant, and it's just wonderful, and it is our pleasure to be here. So thank you for being here and for letting us play in this space. Just a few notes. So you might have noticed that there were two choirs of horns, one that you could see directly and one that was behind you up in the balcony there. And that was... this is the work of Giovanni Gabrieli, who was, for a long time, the music director at St. Mark's in Venice in the height of the Italian Renaissance. So the end of the 16th century and the beginning of the 17th century. And Gabrieli was responsible for a number of innovations in music that we're quite familiar with today, but weren't all that familiar. One of the things that St. Mark's is famous for is it has acoustics, maybe even more so than this. It has big resonant acoustics. And one of his innovations was to have more than one choir, it would usually be vocalists, singing at one time, but from different positions in the church, just like we are today. And it is from this sort of practice that we get the word concerto. In fact, the word concerto, which today means something slightly different, but was first used by his uncle, Andrea Gabrieli, and Giovanni Gabrieli used it also. And a concerto is the word sounds like in concert, in together, but there are more than one group or more than one person who is playing together, but it is both, so you have both plurality, you have distinctness of the people playing, and yet it all sounds together as one. And that's where we got the term concerto, and you can hear that we're playing one piece together, but it is all, but it's all one, one piece, but in two separate choirs. And it's a really sort of neat experience, I think, to sit in the middle. So those of you who are sitting in the middle here, to be hearing it from both sides, and you get this back and forth, and yet it all makes sense as one entity. There are a number of other things that Gabrieli was famous for. He was the first that I'm familiar with to mark in the music where it was to be played loud or soft. So piano and forte was a Gabrieli invention. And so you hopefully heard that we played a little bit of loud and soft in there as well. So what we're familiar with as dynamics come from Gabrieli as well. And historically, if you haven't heard the music of Gabrieli yet much, Gabrieli is sort of occupies a very important place. He trained, even though he was Italian, he was a Venetian, but he did his work there. He trained in Munich, and then he taught a number of German musicians. And so, and you could hear the counterpoint, the way that the two lines or two or more lines in the music tie together. And little less than well, actually, about 100 years after Gabrieli was writing, there was a German composer, perhaps you've heard of him, Johann Sebastian Bach, and and you can trace a lineage from the counterpoint inventions of Gabrieli in Venice to Bach about 100 years later. And so, so much of the music that we're familiar with today can be traced back to Gabrieli. And so it's and you might have noticed as well that that these pieces were not in exactly a major or minor key. They were what were called in modes. The first one was in what's called the Dorian mode. The third one was in what's called the Mixolydian mode. Fancy terms for the idea is that they sound kind of like we're familiar with major or minor keys, but they have a few variations in what the scale that they're using, and it's a neat sort of experience to hear that Renaissance music like that. We're going to be moving forward a little bit, about 300 years, okay? But also to another musician who was devout in the Catholic Church and began as a church organist, actually, and then turned into an organ soloist, and then onto a symphonist after that. That's Anton Bruckner. Anton Bruckner was an Austrian composer. So I'm not sure that he shares a lot in common with Gabrieli. Certainly his music is quite different. But at the same time, they do have a few similarities in their backgrounds. This is an andante, and just to make you aware, we're all up here, we're all playing horns, what's commonly referred to as a French horn. But over here, along the side, you can see, and then there's another one in the back there, there are what are called Wagner tubas. These were requested by Richard Wagner for his operas, an instrument, and he requested them of Adolf Sax, who is most famous, we usually think of him as most famous for inventing the saxophone, but he also invented the Wagner tubas. And so if you hear the symphonies of Bruckner, or some operas of Wagner, and there are a few other pieces as well, you will occasionally hear this sort of otherworldly sound that is played by horn players, but is a sort of unique instrument, and it has this very distinctive sound that's just marvelous. So we'll have a couple of those playing. Whoa. That's usually not what they sound like, but yes. But you'll get to hear the horn sound mixed with the Wagner tuba sound in this andante by Bruckner.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Wright, and want to talk to you about our next piece. It's written by a composer called Eric Ewazen. He's a composition professor at Juilliard and has written some amazing works for brass ensembles. So one thing that's really kind of fun as a musician is you get to perform pieces written by composers all over the world throughout many, hundreds of years of time. But it's really neat when you can play a piece that was written very recently for your state of Michigan, about a Michigan folktale. So this was commissioned in 2001 for the Western Michigan University Symposium, Horn Symposium, I think? International Horn Society Symposium, so just over 20 years ago. And this piece has some narration throughout each of the 4 movements that depicts various scenes from the classic folk tale of the bears coming over and forming the Sleeping Bear Dunes. So with that, who's the first?
The Legend of the Sleeping Bear. In the northeastern corner of Lake Michigan, just off the shore from the giant sand dune, are North and South Manitou Islands. The legend of the Sleeping Bear is a tale of the Chippewa Indians describing the origin of this scenic wonder. The legend begins on the western shore. Mother Bear watches over her 2 young cubs playing and frolicking in the midst of the vast forest. sudden, in a single moment, a lightning bolt, a thunder crash, and the forest ignites in flames. Confused and bewildered, the mother bear and her 2 cubs run to escape the inferno. But the lake appears and they are backed up to the shore. What to do? No choice. They wade into the water, mother bear leading the way, escaping flames as far as the eye can see. They swim towards the east, towards a beautiful sunrise. They swim as day turns into night and stars fill the sky. But now, in the deep waters, the cubs fall farther and farther behind. it is daybreak, and as if by magic, the eastern shore appears. Mother swims to shore, knowing her cubs are with her, but they're not. In the deep waters, the cubs took their last breaths and drowned. Mother bear wanders back and forth along the shore, sure that her cubs will suddenly appear. As exhaustion overtakes her, she lies down, staring out to sea, holding a vigil for the lost. The Great Spirit, Manitou, who has watched this tragic scene unfold, takes pity on Mother Bear. He gives her a comforting sleep and blankets her with sand to keep her warm. And at the spot the cubs perished, he raises their spirits from the deep, forming 2 small islands. Now, forevermore, embraced by the Great Spirit Manitou, Mother Bear watches over her 2 young cubs playing and frolicking in the midst of the Great Lake.
Thank you very much. We're going to take about 5 minutes just to rest our lips, maybe sit down if we're standing up, stand up if we're sitting down, all of that, and we'll start the music up again in about 5 minutes.
Just to restate what he said, if you could stay in this room unless you need to use the bathroom, we'd like to resume the concert shortly. Thank you. If you could all move back to your seats, we'll resume the program shortly.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Lisa Honeycutt. I'm a horn player from the Grand Rapids area. During COVID, I had all this time at home, special me time, and I was online a lot, catching up with Netflix, parents, family, everybody, and also YouTubing a lot of different music. I ran across an arrangement of the Franz Babel Ave Maria that the horn studio from Northwestern University had performed in honor of a studio professor that had passed away. So I got in touch with the arranger that we're going to perform today. Her name is Kate O'Brien. Found her online, we connected, and I just really loved the resonance of all of this. The Ave Maria is probably Franz Babel's most famous, well-known, performed and arranged piece. Some of the characteristics of this piece have a little Renaissance sound to it, and he wrote in motet style for double choirs, somewhat like the Gabrielli. But Franz Babel is quite a contemporary. As he passed away, he lived until 2001, and there's a little connection with Mr. Babel from Germany. He was a choral conductor and a composer. Let's see, he taught and was assistant conductor at the choral music at the Mozarteum in Salzburg, Austria. And he was actually drafted into World War II. Was also captured during World War II and detained in Battle Creek, Michigan. That's what I said. Unbelievable. So anyway, I knew it was a powerful piece of music, but I just didn't know all the connections. So after he was released, he went back to Austria and found himself in Germany, where he served as director of their town choir. Please enjoy this multitude, double, triple quartet choral piece, which has now been transcribed by Miss Kate O'Brien.
Thank you very much. We're now going to have a little fun. I mean, all that was fun too, but this is going to be fun in a different way. So we're going to play a couple tunes from what might be, more popular music. The first is by J.W. Bratton, and it is a song that was composed in 1907. It was actually a tune that was composed in 1907 without words. The words were added 25 years later. And J.W. Bratton, just for those of you who are not familiar with him, he was a Tin Pan Alley sort of composer. He worked in New York in stage, in music, and he was sort of associated with the 1890s and early 1900s, a lot of the sort of beginnings of vaudeville and the like, and he wrote a number of fun tunes, and this is a tune that later, after the lyrics were added, became known as a children's tune, and that is the Teddy Bear's Picnic. So we will begin with that, and then after that we're going to do something, again, completely different, and get a little bit of rock and roll in here, and we're going to play a piece from 1975 by Freddie Mercury for the band Queen, and it is Bohemian Rhapsody. It is one of the most famous songs. Just in the late 60s, early 70s, a lot of rock musicians started experimenting, and Freddie Mercury was no different. So he put together a song that combines a little bit of opera. It has a ballad. It has some hard rock sections. It's got a little bit of everything. So you can see it, you can hear it. That it's just loads of fun to play and hopefully to listen to. So this is the Teddy Bear's Picnic, and then we will play Bohemian Rhapsody.
Who needs this microphone? Okay, we're going to wrap it up with some really familiar tunes to certain crowds. This is another octet. That was actually, I think we have 28 horns playing a quartet, so this is a little more evenly spread out. But this, like some of the other horn ensemble pieces, was actually produced at a Florida gathering of the International Horn Society, just handed out. It's actually not, there's no arranger took credit for it, probably because it contains some copyrighted music, who knows. But it should be a lot of fun. I just want to take the opportunity. I'm actually the one that Kristen and Aaron reached out to when they, I don't know how they found us. We have very little presence. Some of you may remember the original West Michigan Horn Choir led by Tom Working. Started in the 90s sometimes. I played with it for years. Many of these people did. And with Tom's untimely death, really, he was so young, 69. I'm 73, so there. But he passed the music on to me. And I took it to the next technological level by scanning all the music. We used to mail stuff around in the snail mail and show up at the church with our pile of music and put a program together. So we've come a little ways. But anyway, again, thanks to Kristen and Aaron for finding us and really helping to bring this group back together. Hopefully this is the first of many, but we have over 60 players on our roster, so to speak, and who knows how many will show up for any one thing. I'm glad no more did today. We're pretty crowded, but we'll take them, right? We'll find another place. So anyway, thanks for coming, and thanks to Kristen and Aaron.